Hello, I'm Bob Harris. One way to take your beautiful micro-topped floors over the top is with the use of an adhesive back stencil. And what we're about to show you is this ornate design. Now, one thing that you need to take into account, the manufacturer plotted this out and they've given us a dimension of 48 inches by 48 inches. So also, it has to fit into the overall theme of the design of the floor. So we've already saw cut our design into the floor, and we're about to use airbrush dies. Now you might ask, why would you want to use a stencil for an application like this? Well, quite simply, it's because you can achieve some incredible detail. Here's an example. You can see through the light there that you really get some great detail. And so this is one half of the design of the stencil. So what we're about to do is show you how to work these stencils. You'll notice with this manufacturer, they put on here, backing paper removes first. So what you'll always want to do when you position your stencil is make sure that the backing paper removes first is down against the concrete surface, because what we'll do is once we've positioned it where it needs to go, we'll flip it over and then remove this backing paper first. Another consideration when working with stencils is in the winter months, the concrete substrate could in fact be cold. So what you may want to do is get in the habit of carrying a heat gun. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll just spend maybe 5 minutes, roughly 12 to 18 inches away from the surface, and we'll heat the concrete substrate up. And what that does, it allows for better adhesion. The stencil will actually tack up a little bit and stick much better. Leanne has burnished down the backing paper, and what we're trying to do is push this decal onto the other side of the paper, the transfer paper. And now what we're doing is Brad is removing the backing paper first. Remember, look at his knuckles. He's pushing down hard, which is really important. By pushing down like he's doing, it keeps the stencil flat and it won't peel up as you're removing this backing paper. All right, we've removed the backing paper, and now carefully we're going to come over here. Now this stencil is small enough to come over onto this side and just pull it taut like you see here. And that looks real good. All right, so now it's time to burnish this down. We've successfully installed our adhesive back stencil, beautiful design, and it's now time to install some colorful dyes. A couple of very important observations. Number one, you don't want to be spraying your dye inside a finished environment like this with the pressure wide open, and here's what I mean. You can hear I'm spraying at about 10 psi. A lot of people might spray real high pressure like that, and what happens is the dye will go airborne and actually go airborne and float and settle onto your finished floor. Now I want you to look how far we've masked. We've masked 5 to 6 feet further than where we're spraying, despite going with a real low pressure. I'm only spraying air right now, okay? So that's really important. Mask much further than you think you need to, because it's a sick feeling when you have the dyes go airborne, and when you remove your masking you see a faint line of color. It's not a good feeling. So remember, mask further than you need. Also, a word of caution, this is a solvent-based dye. Now I'm spraying so low pressure, we're not going to have a lot of airborne dust particulate, but under no conditions can you have any open ignition source. Very dangerous situation, hot water heaters, things like that. So you absolutely need to be very careful. I'm always going to have a piece of paper here, and I'm going to slowly pull back on my trigger until I start getting color, okay? So if I pull back hard all the way, look what happens, and that could actually ruin the stencil design. So it's a real methodical process. I'm almost spraying as my arm is in a cast. I don't want to have this reservoir splashing in here. So it's a very slow moving, methodical stroke or motion. Now I will say I'm going to use several colors in here. Okay, here we are now. We're getting ready to apply our second color. Remember, I always check my spray stream here. And this is a beautiful mahogany color. So I'm just going to come in and accent certain areas here. And now on to our last and final color. There you have it, quick and colorful dyes right over the top of this adhesive back stencil. Quick and effective and producing some really beautiful results. Now, as one last detail, this is optional, but oftentimes we'll have a client that wants a little bit of additional texture to it. And one way to do that as a last final touch while the stencil is still down is we'll spray either pure acetone or perhaps even a different color of dye, and I'll turn the pressure way down so there's no pressure, and as you'll notice down here, I'm not going to spray, and it'll start lightly speckling. So I'll watch closely here, and all I'm trying to do is create some dots. There we go. So you see, look what's happening on the stencil. We're just getting a little bit of light texture in the form of some dots. All right, our colors are now done. It's time to remove the stencil and see what we end up with on this airbrushed dye stencil piece here. You can see very clean and crisp lines. Put it right here. Now what you don't want to do is get any color dye on your hands and come over here and contaminate these areas. I'll continue. You just carefully go underneath with the pick, and so you don't scratch your overlay floor. And as you can see, the lines are just about as perfect as you can get. Very crisp and clean. Pretty cool. We got the little light texture of dots. Kind of mimics the floor. Gives it a very nice look.